Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya everyday Srimad Bhagavatam reading class. I am Advaita Pran from ISKCON Newtown, Kolkata. We are going to start Srimad Bhagavatam class every day. Continuously, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 4.9 chapter. And Dhruva Maharaj returns home. So, before starting, we will recite Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Ashtapraeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Mukam Karati Vachalam Bhumbum Langhaite Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Sri Gurum Vinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Tat Sat Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakticharu Saminthi Namine Snigdha Cheta Sri Pranita Bhagminam Charasaputam Prabhupada Prano Numi Bhakticharu Padam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanto Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasaptate Chatarine. You can see Srimad Bhagavatam 4.9 chapter. Romara returns on. So we will decide 4.9.63. Udyanani charamyani vichitrair amaradrumai ujad bihangami thunair gayan matta madhovratai. Translation: The king's residence was surrounded by gardens wherein there was varieties of trees brought from the heavenly planets. In those trees there were pairs of sweetly singing birds and almost mad bumblebees, which made a very reliable buzzing sound. But in the first, the word Amara Drumai, with trees brought from heavenly planets, is very significant. Heavenly planets are known as Amar Loka, the planets where death is very much delayed. Because the people there live for 10,000 years according to the calculations of the demigods, in which our 6 months are equal to 1 day. The demigods live in the heavenly planets for months, years, and 10,000s of years according to demigod time. And then again, after the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down to this earth. These are the statements that can be collected from Vedic literature. As the people there live for 10,000 years, so also do the trees. Of course, here on this earth there are many trees which live for 10,000 years. So what to speak of the trees on the heavenly planets? They must live for more than many 10,000 of years. And sometimes, as practiced even now, some valuable trees are taken from one palace to another. It is elsewhere stated that when Lord Krishna went to the heavenly planets with his wife Satyabhama, he took a parijat flower tree from heaven and brought it to the earth. There was a fight between Krishna and the demigods due to the parijat trees being taken from heaven to this planet. The parijat was planted in the palace of Lord Krishna, which was occupied by Queen Satyabhama. The flower and fruit trees in the heavenly planets are superior, for they are very pleasant and tasteful, and it appears that in the palace of Maharaj Uttanpa there were many varieties of such trees. Text 64. Vapyo Vaidurya Sopana Padmutpala Kumudvati Hamsakaran Dava Kullair Chustas Chakrahava Sarasai. Translation: There were emerald staircases which led to lakes full of variously colored lotus flowers and lilies, and swans, Karandavas, Chakravak, Chakravakas, cranes, and similar other valuable birds were visible in those lakes. Purport. It appears that not only was the palace surrounded by compounds and gardens with varieties of trees, but there were small man-made lakes also, where the water was full of many colored lotus flowers and lilies. And to get down to the lakes, there were staircases made of valuable jewels such as emeralds. By the beautifully positioned garden houses, there were many luxuriant birds such as swans, chakravakas, karanadavas, and cranes. These birds generally do not live in filthy places like crows do. The atmosphere of the city was very healthy and beautiful. It can simply be imagined from its description. Text 65. उत्तानपादराजर्षि प्रभवं तनयस्यतं श्रुत्वा दृष्ट्वा धुतात्मां प्रपेदे विस्मयं परम्. Translation: The saintly king Uttanpad, hearing of the glorious deeds of Dhruva Maharaj and personally seeing also how influential and great he was, felt very satisfied, for Dhruva's activities were wonderful to the supreme degree. Purport: When Dhruva Maharaj was in the forest executing his austerities, his father Uttanpad heard everything about his very few wonderful activities. Although Dhruva Maharaj was the son of a king and was only 5 years old, he went to the forest and executed devotional service under strict austerity. Therefore, his acts were all wonderful, and when he came back home naturally because of his spiritual qualifications, he became very popular amongst the citizens. He must have performed many wonderful activities by the grace of the Lord. No one is more satisfied than the father of a person who is credited with glorious activities. Maharaj Uttanpad was not an ordinary king. He was a Rajarshi, a saintly king. Formerly, this art was ruled by one saintly king only. Kings were trained to become saintly, therefore they had no other concern than the welfare of the citizens. These saintly kings were properly trained, and as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also, the science of God or the yoga system of devotional service known as Bhagavad Gita was spoken to the saintly king of the sun planet, and gradually it descended through the Kshatriya kings who were generated from the sun and the moon. If the head of the government is saintly, certainly the citizens become saintly, and they are very happy because both their spiritual and physical needs and hankerings are satisfied. Text 66. Vikshadhyavayasam tam cha prakriti-nam cha sammatam anurakta prajam raja bhuvam chakre bhuvapatim. Translation: When after concentration, King Uttanpad saw that Dhruva Maharaj was suitably matured to take charge of the kingdom, and that his ministers were agreeable and the citizens were also very fond of him, he enthroned Dhruva as emperor of this planet. Purport: Although it is misconceived that formerly the monarchical government was autocratic, from the description of this verse, it appears that not only was King Uttanpad is Rajarshi, but before installing his beloved son Dhruva on the throne of the empire of the world, he consulted his ministerial officers, considered the opinion of the public, and also personally examined Dhruva's character. Then the king installed him on the throne to take charge of the affairs of the world. When a Vaishnava king like Dhruva Maharaj is the head of the government of the entire world, the world is so happy that it is not possible to imagine or describe. Even now, if people would all become Krishna conscious, the democratic government of the present day would be exactly like the kingdom of heaven. If all people became Krishna conscious, they would vote for persons of the category of Dhruva Maharaj. If the post of chief executive was occupied by such a Vaishnava, all the problems of satanic government would be solved. The youthful generation of the present day is very enthusiastic in trying to overthrow the government in different parts of the world. But unless people are Krishna conscious, like Dhruva Maharaj, there will be no appreciable changes in government because people who hanker to acting political position by hook or by crook cannot think of the welfare of the people. They are only busy to keep their position of prestige and monetary gain. They have very little time to think of the welfare of the citizens. Slok 67. Atmanam cha pravayyasam pravayyasam akalya vishampati vanam virakta pratishta vimrasan atmano gatim. Translation: after considering his advanced age and deliberating on the welfare of his spiritual self, King Uttanpada detached himself from worldly affairs and entered the forest. Purport: this is the sign of a Rajarshi. King Uttanpad was very opulent and was emperor of the world, and these attachments are certainly very great. Modern politicians are not as great as kings like Maharaj Uttanpad, but because they get some political power for some days, they become so much attached to their positions that they never retire unless they are removed from their post by cruel death or killed by some opposing political party. It is within our experience that the politicians in India do not quit their positions until death. This was not the practice in olden days, as it is evident from the behavior of King Uttanpad. Immediately after installing his worthy son Dhruva Maharaj on the throne, he left his home and palace. There are hundreds and thousands of instances like this in which kings in their mature age would give up their kingdoms and go to the forest of practice austerity. Practice of austerity is the main business of human life. As Maharaj Dhruvam practiced austerity in this early age, his father Maharaj Uttanpad in his old age also practiced austerity in the forest. Modern days, however, it is not possible to give up one's home and go to the forest to practice austerity. But if people of all ages would take shelter of the of the Krishna consciousness movement and practice the simple austerities of no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and no meat eating, and chant the Hare Krishna mantra regularly, 16 rounds. By this practical method, it would be a very easy task to get salvation from this material world. This ends the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the fourth canto, ninth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. So we will enter into the 10th chapter, Dhruva Maharaj fight with the Yakshas. So here the text one. Mitra Uvacha Prajapate Duhitaram Shishumarasya Vai Dhruva Upaye me Brahminama Tatsutau Kalpa Vatsarau. Translation: the great sage Maitra said, my dear Vidura, thereafter Dhruva Maharaj married the daughter of the Prajapati Shishumar, whose name was Brahmi, and two sons named Kalpa and Vatsara were born of her. Purport: it appears that Dhruva Maharaj married after being installed on the throne of his father and after the departure of his father to the forest for self-realization. It is very important to note in this connection that since Maharaj Uttanpad was greatly affectionate towards his son, And since it is the duty of a father to get his sons and daughters married as quickly as possible, why did he not get his son married before he left home? The answer is that Maharaj Uttanpad was a Rajarsi, saintly king, although he was busy in his political affairs and duties of government management. He was very anxious for self-realization. Therefore, as soon as his son Dhruva Maharaj was quite worthy to take charge of the government, he took his opportunity to leave home. Just like his son, who without fear left home for self-realization, even at the age of 5 years. These are rare instances from which we can see that the importance of self spiritual realization is above all other important work. Maharaj Uttanpad knew very well that to get his son Dhruva Maharaj married was not so important that it should take preference. He is going away to the forest for self-realization. इलयम् अपि भर्यायम् वयोपुत्र्या महाबला पुत्रम् उत्कलनामानाम् योषिद्रत्नम् अजीजनत्. Translation: The greatly powerful Dhruva Maharaj had another wife named Ila, who was the daughter of demigod Vayu. By her he begot a son named Utkala and a very beautiful daughter. Uttamastava akritodvahao Mrigayayam baliyasha hata punya janin adrau tanmatsa gatin gata. Translation: Dhruva Maharaj's younger brother Uttama, who was still unmarried, once went a hunting excursion and was killed by a powerful yaksha in the Himalaya mountains. Along with him, his mother Suruchi also followed the path of her son. She died. Dhruva sutva upamasha ucharpita Jaitram Shayandanam Asthaya Gata Punya Janalayam. Translation: When Dhruva Maharaj heard of the killing of his brother Uttama by the Yakshas in the Himalaya mountains, being overwhelmed with lamentation and anger, he got on his chariot and went out for victory over the city of the Yakshas, Alakapuri. But Dhruva Maharaj, becoming angry, overwhelmed with grief, and envious of the enemies, was not incompatible with his position as a great devotee. It is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry, envious, or overwhelmed by lamentation. Dhruva Maharaj was the king, and when his brother was unceremoniously killed, it was his duty to take revenge against the Yakshas from the Himalayas. Gatvodhichim disham raja rudranuchara sevitam dadarsa himavat dronyam purim guyaka sankulam. Translation: Dhruva Maharaj went to the northern direction of the Himalaya range. In a valley, he saw a city full of ghostly persons who were followers of Lord Shiva. Purport: in this verse, it is stated that the Yakshas are more or less devotees of Lord Shiva. By this indication, the Yakshas may be taken to be the Himalayan tribes like the Tibetans. Text 6. Dadmo Shankham Brihad Bahu Kambil Disas Chanunadayam Yanodivagna Trishak Shaptar Upadevya Trasang Vrisham. Translation Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, as soon as Dhruva Maharaj reached Alkapuri, he immediately blew his conch shell, and the sound reverberated throughout the entire sky and in every direction. The wives of the Yakshas became very much frightened. From their eyes, it was apparent that they were full of anxiety. ततो निष्क्रम्य वालिना उपदेव महाभता असन्तस्तन्निनादाम् अभिपेतुर उदयुद्धः. Translation, O hero Vidura, the greatly powerful heroes of the Yakshas, unable to tolerate the resounding vibration of the council of Dhruva Maharaj, came forth from their city with weapons and attacked Dhruva. Text 8. Satan apatato vira ugradhanva maharatha ekaikam yugapat sarvan ahanbana stribhi. Translation, Dhruva Maharaj, who was a great charioteer and certainly a great bowman, also immediately began to kill them by simultaneously discharging arrows three at a time. Text 9. देवै ललता लग्नस्तैर् विशुभिः सर्व एव हि मत्वा निरस्तम् आत्मानम् असंसान् कर्म तस्यता. Translation, when the heroes of the Yakshas saw that all their heads were being thus threatened by Dhruva Maharaj, they could very easily understand their awkward position, and they concluded that they would certainly be defeated. As heroes, they lauded the action of Dhruva. Purport: the spirit of fighting in a sporting attitude is very significant in this verse. The Yakshas were severely attacked. Dhruva Maharaj was their enemy, but still, upon witnessing the wonderful heroic acts of Maharaj Dhruva, they were very pleased with him. This straightforward appreciation of an enemy's prowess is a characteristic of real Kshatriya spirit. Te api chamum amrishanta padasparsham ihoraga sarai sarai avidyan yogapad degunam परिचिक परिचिकिर सवार परिचिकिर सवार. Translation, just like serpents who cannot tolerate being trampled upon by anyone's feet, the Yakshas, being intolerant of the wonderful prowess of Dhruva Maharaj, threw twice as many arrows, 6 from each of their soldiers, and thus they very valiantly exhibited their prowess. Text 11 to 12. तथा परिघा निस्त्रिंसा प्रसाशूला प्रवस्वधै शक्तिरिस्तिभिर्भूषुन्धिभिः चित्रावाजै शरैरपि अभ्यावर्षन् प्रकोपिता सारथं सारथिम् इच्छन्तस्तत् प्रतिक्रतुम् अयुक्तानां त्रयोदशा. Translation, the Yaksha soldiers were 130, 100 strong, 130,000 strong, all greatly angry and all desiring to defeat the wonderful activities of Dhruva Maharaj. With full strength, they showered upon Maharaj Dhruva, along with his chariot and charioteer, various types of feathered arrows, parighas, iron bludgeons, mistrimas, swords, prasasulas, tridents, paraswadhas, lances, saktis, picks, pikes, ristis, spears, and bhushundi weapons. text 13. Uttana padasa tada sastavarse na bhurina na evadrisyat tachanna asarena yatha giri. Translation: Dhruva Maharaj was completely covered by an incessant shower of weapons, just as a mountain is covered by incessant rainfall. Purport: Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out in this connection that although Dhruva Maharaj was covered by the incessant arrows of the enemy, this does not mean that he succumbed in the battle. Example of a mountain peaks being covered by incessant rain is just suitable. For when a mountain is covered by incessant rain, all dirty things were washed from the body of the mountain. Similarly, the incessant shower of arrows from the enemy gave Dhruva Maharaj new vigor to defeat them. In other words, whatever incompetency he might have had was washed away. So today we will stop here. From tomorrow we will continue. Where we will stop here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, पतित पावन श्री गुरु महाराज की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि बोल।